Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check updates, what's going on with the United States, daily news, what's going on in Washington, D.C., and what's going on with the next stimulus package, the $3.5 trillion stimulus package. The U.S. House of Representatives is back in session. They have come back from their recess or come back from their state work period where they go back to their states to work. They have been called back from their states. They are now back in Washington, D.C., and will be now working on the next $3.5 trillion stimulus package, which is the largest stimulus package yet to date. The $3.5 trillion stimulus package, in comparison, the next stimulus package, compared to the last stimulus package, the third stimulus check package, that was only $1.9 trillion. So this next stimulus package will be almost twice the size. Yeah, so really, there's enough money in there to put a fourth stimulus check, an extension of the child tax credits, those $250 to $300 monthly checks. Those end at the end of this year for children, $3,000 to $3,600 per year. They say they want to extend that, but they need to do it. They're also saying that an adult tax credit will be in this next package. What that will be, who will get that, how much that will be, well, we're going to be finding that out here pretty quickly. And the House of Representatives is now back in session, and we're going to be covering that in this video, as well as what's going on in the United States and what is going on in Washington, D.C. We're going to start with, surprisingly, former President Donald Trump. Yeah. Strangely enough, former President Donald Trump has some shocking information. He was at a Republican rally, and I was actually surprised to hear him say this. And I was very, very surprised to hear the reaction of his own Republican crowd. Now, on the other side of the aisle, President Biden's been getting his own fair share of boos on the Afghanistan, what some people would say, debacle. It's weird because on this particular case, the vast majority of Americans believe that we should pull out of Afghanistan, but yet a lot of people think that he's kind of just handled the evacuation wrong, even though the majority of Americans think that we should be pulling out of Afghanistan. Biden says the U.S. has a long way to go, and a lot could still go wrong in the final days of the evacuation. The president says that up to 33,000 people have been evacuated since July, including 28,000 people since August 14th, just in the last week.
Any American who wants to get home will get home. We've also been evacuating the citizens of our NATO allies and our partners, including their diplomats, their embassy staff, who remain in Afghanistan, and to get them back to their homes as well. And as we do this, we're also working to move our Afghan allies who stood with us side by side and other vulnerable Afghans, such as women leaders and journalists, out of the country. As of this morning, we have evacuated nearly 28,000 people since August the 14th. It would have been true if we had started a month ago or a month from now. There is no way to evacuate this many people without pain and loss of heartbreaking images you see on television. It's just a fact. My heart aches for those people you see.
President Biden also emphasizes that Afghan refugees will be entering the United States and will be vetted before entering the United States.
Planes taking off from Kabul are not flying directly to the United States. They're landing at U.S. military bases and transit centers around the world. Number two, at these sites where they're landing, we are conducting thorough scrutiny, security screening for everyone who is not a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident. Anyone arriving in the United States will have undergone a background check.
Now, the U.S. House of Representatives, who now has the $3.5 trillion stimulus bill, it's going to be starting in the House now. The Senate passed the bill to the House with the reconciliation process. Basically, they passed a motion to proceed, basically passed the motion to this from the Senate to the House, and will be starting the bill in the House of Representatives now. The infrastructure package, which has fully passed the Senate, which is different than just the motion to proceed, the infrastructure package has passed the Senate and will be moving on to the House as well. Now, the House is kind of fighting among themselves, with the Democrats at least, on what they're going to do going forward with the stimulus package, the $3.5 trillion, and the infrastructure package, the $1.2 trillion infrastructure package that they're going to be literally working on today. Yeah, so basically, the Democrats are kind of sparring or battling amongst themselves between the progressive Democrats, which is a much larger group between the Democrats. There's probably around 100 progressive Democrats, and a much smaller group of Democrats, the more moderate Democrats or the Republican leaning Democrats, the middle leaning Democrats, that don't want to vote on the infrastructure package and the stimulus package together. These moderate leaning Democrats, there's about 9 of them. They want to pass the infrastructure package by itself. They want to just pass it right now, get it over with, and then move on to the stimulus package all by itself. However, there's a much larger group of progressive Democrats. We don't know exactly how many, but there's a lot of them, probably around 100 of them. The Democratic Progressive Caucus alone is around 100, so there could be more of them. But it's safe to say there's around 100 progressive Democrats in the House alone that are like, no, we don't want to do that. The question is are these group of 9 Democrats going to halt the vote to proceed? So remember how the Senate did a vote to proceed with the reconciliation process. The House is probably going to need to do that as well, basically to start the reconciliation process in the House. And remember, they kind of want to vote on these side by side. But remember, the House has a much larger voting process to go through because the infrastructure package, the $1.2 trillion infrastructure package, is already half passed. It's passed in the Senate, officially passed in the Senate, where the $3.5 trillion stimulus package is really not passed anywhere. It's only a motion to proceed passed. There's no bill written yet. The House is going to be writing the bill if they can even get past the motion to proceed. The Democrats, the moderate Democrats, could actually block the motion to proceed, and then, well, we'd be in a bit of a pickle because then the motion to proceed from their own moderate Democrats, this is them, the Democrats fighting amongst themselves, well, then they'd have to basically negotiate amongst the own moderate Democrats and be like, well, listen, we have 100 Democrats that want to basically vote on both these packages together. And there's 9 Democrats that want to say, no, we don't want to vote them together. Well, we have to make everybody happy. And there's 100 Democrats saying, no, we want to vote them together. 9 only say no. So obviously the 9 are in the minority. So you're in the minority. So we can make some concessions to you. We can negotiate with you, but we can't just agree with you because, well, you're in the minority. So basically, what do you want? We can negotiate with you a little bit, but we can't just give you everything you want because, well, you're in the minority. So yeah, that's kind of what Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic leaders, House Majority Steny Hoyer, are kind of going to deal with today here as all the House Democrats and really the Republicans are coming back as well. Remember, all the Republicans are really going to vote no on this package. So the Republicans are really just there in spirit to vote no on the stimulus package. Now, the Republicans are going to be voting on the infrastructure package when and if that takes place as well. We don't know the exact time and place that all this voting is going to happen. They could be voting on the motion to proceed on the stimulus package today. If that all goes down according today, again, we'll have to see because, again, they're literally arguing amongst themselves and negotiating, and all this is going down in real time and very, very quickly. And, well, they're fighting amongst themselves. So, honestly, it'll be very interesting to see what happens today because, well, we could be in a bit of a pickle. We also could see the initial portion passed with the motion to proceed. Yeah. So it's very, very tricky because, as I said, I think there's about 218 House Democrats right now. There used to be 223, but a few Democrats actually died, believe it or not, and a few of them retired or resigned. So when you have 218 Democrats or 218 people, let's just say, imagine you being in a room of 218 people and you're standing on the podium and you're trying to get every single one of them to agree with you. It's kind of hard to do. Now imagine that you're writing a bill full of thousands and thousands of pages and you're trying to get them all to agree with a bill full of thousands and thousands of pages. Yeah, That is basically what they're doing. And believe it or not, that is exactly what they did with the third stimulus check package. And as I reported like a day or two ago, that third stimulus check package, the American Rescue Plan with the $1,400 stimulus checks for adults, $1,400 stimulus checks for children, $1,400 stimulus checks for adult dependents and college students who are adult dependents, didn't even receive stimulus checks from package 1 and 2. And it had the child tax credits, which are only passed for this 1 year. They have to extend that to continue sending those out past this 1 year. It had the rent assistance, the mortgage assistance, and all the 15% SNAP increase, all those additional stimulus provisions in there. That was actually the 5th most popular bill ever passed in the United States, including executive order, in the last like 30 or 40 years. So yeah, it was a very, very popular plan. And with President Biden's approval rating in the gutter right now with this whole Afghanistan debacle, passing this next stimulus package and providing a big old fat fourth stimulus check in there and child tax credits, which we basically all know are just checks from the government of $250 to $300 monthly checks. Monthly checks have a much larger, nicer ring than just a single check. Okay. I consider them stimulus checks because they're going to pass them in the stimulus package. And guess what? If they don't pass them in the stimulus package, those child tax credit monthly checks, they go away. They're only passed for just this 1 year. December 31st, they stop. Now, you're still going to get the first half of this year on your tax returns, but they're only passed for just this 1 year, guys. 65 million children that are getting those child tax credits this year, they go away after this year. And remember, they were passed in that third stimulus check package, which is why I consider them stimulus checks. They're just basically monthly checks. They're tax credits, but remember, a stimulus check is a tax credit. They're also saying in this next package, this fourth stimulus package, is going to be adult tax credits. Multiple different articles is saying in this next package is going to be an extension of the child tax credit, hopefully, when they pass this next package, and hopefully an adult tax credit. This is what the Democrats have said proposed to be in this next package. So an adult tax credit could basically just be a check for adults. But we don't know who's going to qualify for it, what the income qualifications are going to be, what the thresholds are going to be, and if they're going to send them out in advance like a stimulus check or not. So we're going to be finding all that out here, hopefully very, very soon, as they're literally, the House is back in session today. Thank God. And yeah, they just, that's why I never make a big deal about recess, because they just call them back from recess, or I really shouldn't even say recess. Recess is kind of a derogatory slang, because when you think recess, you think they just fly off on a plane and go sip on Mai Tais and they fly off to Cancun, right? It's actually called a state work period because they go back to their states and they're supposed to be working in their states. They go back to New Jersey, they go back to Missouri, they go back to Mississippi, they go back to Texas, they go back to whatever state they're from, and they go back to their states and work. So that's why sometimes these state work periods are several weeks long, because they have to go back to their states and work. They can't be in Washington, D.C. 365 days a year and never be in Arkansas, never be in North Carolina, never be in South Carolina. You have to be a representative of your state. So, but nonetheless, whenever they have these crucial votes, they literally just call them back to their states. And that's exactly what they've done. So the House of Representatives is now back in the Capitol today, and they literally could be starting the voting process today. But they have to get all their ducks in a row first. So we're going to see if these moderate Democrats, they're the Joe Manchins and the Kirsten Sinema from the Senate. There's 9 of those guys in the House, because remember, the House is like 4 times the size. Okay, so take 2 of those senators from the Senate and multiply times 4, that would be 8. Well, there's 9 of them in the House. It's almost perfect math, right? So yeah, but even with all this complicated math, this is exactly what they did with the third stimulus check package, and they tied it up perfectly with a bow and sent out those $1,400 stimulus checks and the $3,600 child tax credits. And they're also saying that in this next package is going to be an adult tax credit. So let's just hope that there's going to be child tax credits in this next package, adult tax credits, let's hope there's both of those, and stimulus check. Let me know your thoughts. I'll keep you up to date with everything in this next stimulus package. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.